Thanks for having me.
Yeah. We were just kind of talking a little bit, but obviously in the campaign, you talked about your hesitancy. And we understand that a lot of folks in our community are still hesitant. There's been a lot of information out there, but tell us about some of the parameters for your hesitancy.
So, like I was saying, when I did the show, the commercial, excuse me, I was hesitant because there was a lot of lack of information, and from what I was told, a vaccine can usually take anywhere between 3 to 6 years. And it just seemed like they came up with this overnight. So I left a lot of concern when I was before I had got it.
Yeah, and then you talk about like literally here. First off, I got to say, blue and white. He came ready today. Okay, you
Coordinate.
see that coordination? We didn't
Yeah.
plan that, but also too, you said that some of the things that kind of broke the ideas for you was actually hearing specifically from medical professionals, right?
Yes. So during well, I had cut him for a while, and during COVID, I had to do what I had to do because the world stopped, my bills didn't stop.
Mm.
So, I was doing house cuts, and when I was cutting him, I always like to talk. In the barber shop, that's the place to wind down, get something off your chest, and just talk the talk. So I always talk, so I was like, hey, I won't say his name, but I was like, what do you feel? What is your thoughts about this vaccine? And he was just like, you know, with the times that we're in now, things are able to be created a lot faster than before. And he was just like, if you care about yourself and your family, he was like, I suggest you get it. He said, it's not going to cure you from not getting it, but what it will do is if you do catch it, it will slow the process. Well, not even, excuse me, not slow the process down, but it will stop you from, dying. So I was just
Mm.
like, man, like I'm hearing this on the news. I'm hearing this through experience. I'm hearing this through people talking about a lot of people have been passing away, from COVID. So I was just like, if this can help me stay on this earth just a little bit more longer to be able to sit there and take care of my kids, then I'm gonna be all for it.
Yeah, I think, as a parent myself, I think when we talk about caring for our families, it's so key. And I know many people that are my peers and kind of in our age range, it was like, man, if you still have the opportunity to be around your grandparents, great grandparents, like your elders, and just caring for them, right? Because
Exactly.
you don't want, I mean, it was like, okay, yes, you can still catch COVID, but we also saw that there were higher numbers of folks who were unvaccinated that were actually spreading COVID more. We
Hmm.
saw that in the beginning. I think the numbers for me, it was like, it was such a numbers game because they kept kind of changing over
It
time.
was.
Yeah. And
It
it was
still
like,
is.
yeah, it still is.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, how are they being able to make sure that these numbers are accurate day by day? That was my kind of question around it. But I think a lot of people also were like, man, it's about protecting our kids and protecting our elders.
Most definitely.
How much of the elder talk? Because I mean, if you're a barber, you're also probably cutting up some
I
elders too.
do.
So how much of that was also a factor for you?
It played a lot because again, my grandmother, she's still on this earth living and breathing. My grandfather had passed away, not because of COVID during 2020, but he had dementia. But, like I said, I wanted to be able to get back to my grandma again, be around her, my aunties, they're much older as well. And, so I was just like, okay, if this is gonna help me be able to start getting those hugs again, being around my family, uh, cooking, just like my family's from New Orleans. So it's always a good time. And, that's what I wanted to do. And then, like I said, like you were saying, with me being in the barber shop, I do have a few elderly clients,
Mhm.
and, like I said, just because the world stopped and we're put in a situation like we are, I have to adjust to it. And I didn't get it just because of that. But like I said, again, it goes back to my family. But, I got to take care of their well being as well while they're sitting in my chair.
Yeah, it's so true. I mean, so much of it. And so then obviously, like you say in the commercial, you eventually got vaccinated. And, things have really progressed and changed so much since probably then. But I want to ask you about your experience in the campaign, like, them being able to reach out to you. How did that process work? And how did they find you for you to be able to share your story?
Because I'm that guy. No, just playing. Nah, so what it is my homegirl Stephanie. Uh, I met her. It's funny how I met her. Actually, I met her through my boy T Money. He's a videographer. I would cut his hair. I was cutting his hair. He helped me shoot like a lot of my videos for my shop. And one time I had to do a house cut during COVID, and I met Stephanie. She's the dopest person on this earth, man. Her spirit is like huge. Every time she comes in the shop, it's nothing but love. So I start cutting her hair, and then I want to say it was like a few months ago. She comes in my chair. I was like, "Hey, Keys, she works for the city of Washington," and she was just like, "I have an opportunity for you." And she was like, it's to do a commercial. She was like, you as a black business owner, she was like, I would like to see you on there. I was like, set it up. Anything. I'm always about anything to be a part of the community, and of course, I like being on camera.
Well, that played well.
Yes,
Your commercial's been airing here on the Morning Update Show and on Converge Media for a while now. So now your face is definitely getting known.
Yeah, I've been getting a lot of love.
But it's also your story, and I think it's so important. I love that Stephanie did say something to you about the opportunity because barber shops are cultural hubs, man. I mean, we're talking about salons and barber shops, and we understand this not because of the barbershop movie series, even though it's spotlighted it, but just decades of culture building for Black men in particular. Tell us about why you said, what I'm going to do is I'm going to really give my love as a barber. Like, this is something that I want to do with my life. Tell us a little bit about that background for you that got you to that point.
Me becoming a barber.
Yeah.
So, man, I think I was like 14, 15. I was a freshman in high school. Junior high back then.
Mm-hmm.
My mom was a single woman, parent, She was like, you going to the barber shop every week, it was costing me a lot of money. I had a full beard. I didn't have a beard like this, but I had a chin strap. And she was like, here. She went and bought me some clippers. It was like, figure it out. And then my pops, I do remember him. He would always touch himself up in the mirror at times. And I sit there and watch him sometimes. And I got some little pointers from him. And, I just paid attention to what the barber shops were, about. I grew up in there sweeping floors and stuff. My aunt, she owned her own salon at the time. So she used to braid my hair, and just being up in there and just hearing everybody, just their conversation, and just like, the way that they was presenting themselves is just always an uplift, And I was like, man, this is dope. It's a dope feeling. And so it wasn't until, honestly, I got locked up when I was 17 or 18. It's been so long. But I was in there, and I picked the clippers back up. And when I got out, it's crazy because I wrote my grandmother a letter, and I don't even remember. But when I got out, she showed me the letter. She was just like, it said basically, I'm going to become a barber. I'm going to own my own barbershop.
Wow. So then you were like, look, I got to do this.
I got to do this. Yeah.
Well, you know what? I will say this, kudos to you.
Thank you.
I get the opportunity because I have two sons.
Okay.
I get the opportunity to talk to barbers. And I will say that it is, for a minute, there was almost like a dying art form. We need these hubs. We need spaces like your shop to be thriving places because, there's nothing like seeing my son's shining face and smiling face when they get out of that chair. It's something, it's something that is like handed down, and it's a whole experience. They get to talk to, like you said, talk to their barbers, share things, resources. And so you were just telling me a little bit about not only you as a barber, but also bringing in some of this financial knowledge and education to the people that you're working with in the shop and others that are clients. Tell us about how you were like, I need to be thinking about this generational wealth and how we bring that into this cultural environment at the shop.
So it happened again during COVID. I kind of had a time to sit back and be like, what's going to happen now? Everything is shut down. I don't know how long we're going to be shut down for. It's time for me to start figuring out something else. So I got in contact with my boy Jeff. I was just checking around with a lot of local barbers, and he was just like, hey, Keith, I want to introduce you what I'm doing. He was like, financial services. I was like, financial services? So good thing, thank God for Zoom. We was able to set up a Zoom meeting, and he started educating me on what it is to set up a 401k properly, to show you the rate of return, the Rule 72, and how to invest and create that generational wealth. Because, COVID was here, and it was just like, okay, me, doing these house calls, I'm still putting myself at risk too.
Mm.
So it's just like if something was to happen to me, what do I have to leave my children behind? And so that opened my eyes to a lot more. And I was able to, get into that field as well. So I'm doing that right now. And it's been a beautiful thing helping families because at the end of the day, us as Black men and women, our upbringing, we're not taught that. We're taught to just go to work, retire when we're 65, and then just sit around. But I wanted to stop that. So now I'm here helping folks get their what they need to be in their future. So that way, when they're old, 30, 40, 60, whenever they plan on retiring, they're not having to go get that other job working at Walmart being a door greeter.
Yeah. It's so important. I mean, kudos to you.
Thank you.
I spent some time in that kind of capacity myself
Okay.
before I really like hit the ground running with community work. But I understand the need for us to identify ourselves as how do we get to the investor level,
Exactly.
right? The rule of 72 is huge. For those who don't know, look this up. It's a huge rule in the financial world. But also, we talk about insurance often, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And insurance is one of those metrics that has really created generational wealth. It's
Yes,
like
ma'am.
insurance and real estate are two things that have been so such huge markers
Huge, yeah.
in terms of generational wealth in our country. And of course, we understand that some families got a leg up because of 400 years of free
Right,
labor.
right.
Let's not forget that. But also the fact that this knowledge needs to be coming into our communities. I commend you
Thank you.
for understanding that there's a need there and that you can bring it into such a cultural hub that's trusted like your shop. You know what? I gotta give you time for folks. If they want to connect with you, if they're like, hey, I need a barber in Tacoma, you can look right there in that camera right there and let them know how they can find you.
First off, y'all more than welcome to contact me personally, 206-742-6633. Again, 206-742-6633. You can find me on Facebook at Marquise the Barber Willis, and you can find me on Instagram at Quise the Barber, and you can find me on Snapchat. I really don't be much on there. I just show off my work sometimes, but Quise the Barber. I'm not hard to find. I'm downtown Tacoma, 13th and Fawcett. More than welcome to get your haircut. You're more than welcome to get this financial, education. I'm gonna drop on your head, and man, I'm living in Tacoma now too, but yeah, I'm out there in Tacoma.
There it is.
Yeah.
There it is. We need to be reaching out more. And I just want to really thank you personally for sharing your story around COVID and the
Thanks for having me.
hesitancy. It's important that
It
we
is.
actually uplift it. We've been talking about it here on the Morning Update show and at Converge Media for a long time, that we have to have space and grace for our community members who are still hesitant. We understand it because we really have been critical of a lot of information that comes through major media and news channels, because oftentimes it's not the full 100%
Exactly.
true. So I understand why people have been hesitant. And I just thank you for sharing your story so that hereforuswa.org could have some real authentic stories to really carry that message forward. Thank you so much.
No, again, thank you for having me.
Absolutely.